Go.
It's going. It's going.
I'm gonna hit it on my end too. Let's try that again.
Yeah, bloopers reel live. Let's do it.
Blooper live, man. This is where it all comes in. All right, 3, 2, 1. Episode 58 of Gaming MBS. All right, welcome to Gaming MBS, a podcast about tabletop RPGs and other miscellaneous topics of geekery. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks.
Yeah.
We had some fun in the setup on this one. That was a good time.
You know, if you think after 50 episodes, Sean would get his proverbial technical shit together, but unfortunately not. I just figure,
See, I look at it this way. In Sean's quest for the perfect audio and the absolute perfection that is Sean's normal operating model, he's just trying so hard. There's constant adjustments being made in the background. So it's okay. Omelets, eggs, something along those lines.
I don't even know what to say, man. There's, what there is with podcasting. Anybody that, it's funny. A lot of this is, you bring it on yourself, because you could take a podcast does not have to be technically difficult. You take, a USB microphone like Brett has, you plug it into your computer. Bam. I take a USB mic, put it in my computer, boom, hit Blab or some type of recording software, like, record it off of Skype using some third party, done. But no, Sean has to have a mixer and a compressor limiter gate and all this other bullshit with all these knobs and switches. And
that's because Sean is a tech geek inside. Despite his recruiting exterior, folks, he's absolutely a tech geek inside. Yeah. And it's gear, man. Gear's cool.
Gear is cool. Buttons and switches are fun.
Absolutely.
All right, man. So episode 56.
58. Good grief.
Can't even get my damn episode right.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm here. Keep you honest. Do we have any announcements?
I do not have any announcements, Brett. Do you?
No, nothing new and nothing new, improved or otherwise new. We've talked a little bit about EverCon coming in January of next year, and we've got Game Hole next month, which is in a couple of weeks, for Christ's sake. That's going to hit us fast. I got our banners. I believe they've shipped. I'm going to double check on that. So we should be good. So we walk around representing and giving out some bookmarks and other bits of coolness, hopefully.
I need to get a vinyl wrap for my car.
A vinyl wrap for your car. Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
Just a big picture of you on the hood. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. Yeah. More money to spend.
Exactly. Well, compressor limiter gates, more mixers, and a car wrap. Let's do it.
Hey,
anyway.
You never know.
Never know.
All right, let's go into random encounter. All right, random encounter. Segment of the show where we field emails, voicemails, social media, comments from our blog. Und so weiter.
You want me to? You read this one. You read this one. You've had a rough day. I want you to start off strong. Okay, you go first. You read.
All right. So Jason Rather, he's been listening to us. I know Jason from quite some time ago. I used to game with Jason.
Isn't he the one that sent us the hate mail? The one hate mail? No.
He has not sent us hate mail yet, but he may after this episode. We'll see. Ooh. It's still early yet.
Okay.
Hi, Sean and Brett. I used to play LG. So for those not in the know, LG is Living Greyhawk. Sean,
okay.
Yeah, with Sean back in Madison. First of all, Jason, it wasn't Living Greyhawk. It was Eberron. We played the live Eberron.
Great. Now you called your old childhood friend an ass and a liar in front of everybody. That was great. That was sweet.
Jason and I don't go back that far.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it worse.
Living Eberron, I think, is what it was. back in Madison, and it's been great to reconnect through the podcast. Your sweet, dulcet tones make my morning commute more tolerable, even if most of what you say is bullshit.
Should have heard the feedback and squeal we had earlier today. That awoken you right the fuck up.
All it takes is for me just to hit a little switch.
Yeah, that's all good. That's the magic switch.
It is. I was listening to episode 52, and it made me think of one of my favorite D&D basic adventures, B4 The Lost City by Tom Mulvey. Adventure drops.
I believe I own that one. I haven't played it though.
Didn't it come in the damn box set? I think it came in the box set, right? The adventure drops to the PCs in a desert next to a ruined pyramid with no food or water. They end up exploring the ruin not to find gold or adventure, but in the hopes of starving off dehydration. They still have their armor and weapons, but mundane supplies like torches, flint, and tinder, and water skins are far, far more important. Pretty soon, your dudes are eating anything they kill in the hopes it will provide some measure of nutrition. It doesn't take long before things get crazy. Anyway, I've been thinking about a topic for the show, and it's one you've brushed upon in various episodes, but I don't think you've addressed head on. In a word, dungeons. Specifically, location-based adventures with keyed encounter areas. It could be a cave under a monastery, a techno maze filled with killer robots, or a corporate facility with valuable intel. Do you prefer non-linear dungeons with many different paths, or an encounter funnel that ensures the PCs handle things in the right order? Does the dungeon need a boss fight at the end? Do you make the players handle the mapping, or do you give them a map handout? What about random encounters? Big mega dungeons or a handful of rooms? I'm curious as to how you guys handle dungeons in your games and what works for you. Sorry if that seems unfocused, and feel free to ignore. Keep up the good work, and see you guys at Gamehole Con.
I like it. We have not
dungeons.
We have not talked about actual dungeons. We've talked about bits and pieces of them. Some of the kind of the Sean Railroad, or is it more sandboxy? How can you do it? But there's something about a dungeon, especially an old school dungeon, when it's that map. It's a map with a it feels very linear, and it has those the numbered rooms, and this one first, then that one. You and I talked about this off show one time about how I think it was kind of a funnel that you were going through, not the Dungeon Crawl Classics funnel per se of the characters, while weeding out the weak to get to the strong one, but this idea that you have to go through steps 1, 2, and 3 before you get to the end type of thing. I vaguely remember this, but anyway, I've been thinking about dungeons and that type of. We've touched on ecology a little bit, but I don't think we have not. To Jason's point, we have not grappled with the dungeon itself. I think we shall do that. Absolutely, we'll get hold of it, drag it down.
We haven't spoken about dragons, but we have talked about Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, yes, we'll have to. Well, maybe that's the thing. Back to back. One will be about dungeons, the next will be about dragons. See what we can do. Cool. And that episode,
thanks for writing in, Jason Rather.
Absolutely. And for those who haven't listened, episode 52 is our episode about gear, where we talked about different components of hardware, equipment, and so forth in role-playing games. Social status of gear, maintenance, and all that good stuff that goes with it. So that was episode 52.
And if they haven't heard to listen to 52,
you start at 1 and work your way forward.
That's right. Because you may miss out on something that leads up to it.
Totally. There's a hidden plot line in all 58 episodes. So you gotta listen to them all in order. Doesn't make any sense otherwise.
All right, man.
Cool.
You want to hit the next one? This is off of our blog.
Andy Hall on episode 57. Ooh, that's the one just prior to this. Neat. What the hell did we talk about last time? Oh, player to game master last time. Talking about Sean and I and different ideas and hints. Our buddy Jeff Rademacher had given us the question of what it takes or how we did it. So we went at it. And now Andy Hall says, thanks, gents. I enjoyed the discussion on episode 57. I appreciated Brett's remembrance of the rough ride his friends gave him when he ran a game. God, that was brutal. I also like the suggestion that you try one or two new /cool different things to try in a session when you GM. Do not try to cram too much in the way of new things in a session. That seems sensible, unless, of course, everything you do is a GM blows chunks. Nice. If you want to GM... I like it. If you want to GM well, I think you have to understand what it means to be a good, active, and generous / unselfish player. That's something I'm working on thanks to Roll20. I'm in the, quote, play more games, unquote, mode and learning from other GMs and players. I'll be starting a mini campaign soon, Lankmar and Savage Worlds, which sounds freaking awesome. I will say as an aside. I'm a big Lankmar fan. Fought for the Mauser, man.
And Brett is unselfish.
Thank you. Nice.
Wink, wink.
Okay, going back. I thought I knew how to be a player, but I was still doing douchey stuff that I learned as a teenager. Playing an RPG has a time travel effect on my brain, and I become 15 again and immature and selfish. I always have to fight that. As a player who wants to GM, the article, this article was a good boot in the arse. He's got a little link out there. We'll post it up in our show notes. You'll see it. And I just threw it out there to the folks in our blab as well. The Lazy Dungeon Master book, Sly Flourish / Mike Shea as author, seems to be a really good book, and I need to put its tips into practice. I like the fact that you guys addressed Angela Murray's feedback from episode 56 about starting as a novice schlub characters. If you want to learn a new system, I think you can start out as a novice level character and learn the system as you go. I cannot imagine learning to play Pathfinder as a 10th level wizard. My brain would implode. Of course, if you know the system and the system really lends itself to playing epic characters, why not rock it anyway as your group likes? I totally love the, quote, Miss Jackson, if you're nasty, unquote bit. Excellent deadpan delivery. I audibly snorted while riding on a quiet commuter train, apparently, when you guys said that. Awesome.
I love people who snort. I think it's awesome.
Andy, thank you so much for writing in. That's good stuff.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andy. Yeah, his campaign sounds like it's going to be awesome, man. How can it go wrong? And his comment about Angela's, a little foreboding.
A little, not foreboding, foreshadowing as well. Foreboding, foreshadowing, all the fours, all of it.
Yes, fours all around.
Fours all around. You're up. Yeah. Mr. Mike Walsh wrote in.
Mike Walsh. Oh, sorry, wrong Walsh.
Oh, God.
Hey, guys. My name is Mike, and I have a question concerning fate. When I read this, I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, God. He may be asking the wrong people. We might have to point them at Chris and Phil at Misdirected Mark to give them some help. But keep going. Let's see what we can do.
We field emails, but I don't know about rules stuff, about systems I have no freaking clue about. Okay. All right, go. I recently tried teaching someone online about Fate Accelerated, and they felt invoking an aspect as a GM and giving the choice to earn or spend a fate point was a bad mechanic that interrupted immersion and roleplay for the player during a game session. What do you guys think about this? Thanks, Mike, not Joe Walsh. So rereading it, it's like, oh, he didn't actually ask a rules question. Like, hey,
it was more like, what do you think about this perspective?
Right. So Fate is a different beast, because we talked a little bit about this, because there are games like Fate or even Dungeon World, I think, and some Apocalypse World games that, or Fiasco or Primetime Adventures, that relies on the characters to set the narration. That's my set the narration.
Hand gestures there. That's nice.
If you were watching the video, you'd understand what I'm kind of going up and down. Anyway,
no, you won't. That won't help you at all. Anyway, keep going.
But I think what he is saying, because I don't know if this is necessarily an opinion, because I think in some games it's part of the game. So if you say, I'm going to invoke an aspect to earn or spend a fate point, whatever, the mechanic is, and that, so the key is whether it's not whether you can or you cannot, it's whether it's the mechanic that breaks the immersion, bad or good.
See, there's other thing I find that anyway, this reminds me of something similar that I've done in my game. So in this case, Fate Accelerated, this individual is telling Mike, hey, I feel that invoking an aspect as a game master and giving the choice to earn or spend a fate point was a bad mechanic and interrupted immersion for the player during a game session. To me, that mechanic would be no different than if Sean and I are gaming and I'm going to say, you know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to jump across this creek, land, and then shoot my bow. I want to get across the creek and take a quick snapshot with my bow. And Sean says, Brett, if you do that, you're going to be at -4. I'm like, really? Yeah, you too, dude, totally. You're -4. Look, running, jumping, blah, blah, blah. According to this rule set, you're at -4. If you don't want the -4, you got to try to take the shot from the other side. You're shooting through brush, so you're only at -2. Okay, fine, I'll take the -2. That type of mechanical discussion in a quasi D&D type of game, as I described there, doesn't destroy the immersion per se, because you're trying to negotiate the creek, you're trying to negotiate the the brush that the bad guy's hiding behind, or whatever the case is. In this one, aspects, from what I understand of Fate, the more I've listened to Chris and Phil from Misdirected Mark and other folks talking to us about Fate, we had a really good email tutorial from Victor. Victor gave us last time about this, and I can see where people would feel like, look, if you do that, I'm going to take a fate point from you, and we're going to give you something. If you're not used to that mechanic and you're more used to the previous description or concept I just laid out there, like, hey, you want to do that thing? It's -4. You do this other thing, it's -2. I can see where one might feel clunky or different to you because it's new. That different type of aspect to me in that description would be no different than the back and forth that Sean and I would have about jumping across a creek and trying to shoot my bow through some brush. So I don't think it's that big a deal. I think it's something that you need to work through if you want to keep trying to play Fate. I think the other component of it would be having people understand that if you're trying to learn something the first time through, in my experience, when I played a new RPG, the immersion, I hate to say it, kind of takes a backseat for me because I want to get the mechanic down. I want to understand the game because I can become immersed in the game system. I can become immersed in the world once I can put all that mechanical stuff behind me. Once it's second nature and I know how it operates and what it's supposed to do, then I can go and I can just run with it. I'm going to do this thing. Brett, you realize you're at -4. Yes, I know, but I'm doing this anyway because that's what I do. Okay, fine. Boom, -4. I'm going to do this. You're going to get a compel. I don't care. I'll take it. You're going to get I'm going to compel you from this. I'm going to give you an aspect of, stumbling. Okay, fine. I'll take stumbling, but I'm getting across that fucking creek and I'm going to take my shot anyway. Because that's what I want to do. It feels to me like the individual Mike is working with doesn't understand the rule, isn't familiar with that, and sounds, I would think that he's more the person he's talking to, I'm assuming he's a him. He or she is looking for, it's either -4 on a die roll or a -2 or some other kind of modifier. And this more, the aspects and stuff sometimes can feel more impactful to the character than a minus on a die roll because it's the thing I'm giving you. Like saying, Sean, all of a sudden you're stumbling, you fell down, you're blind in one eye, you've got mud in your face. And that seems more impactful, perhaps.
Big disgrace.
Exactly. So, kind of went off on a rail.
No, I don't.
Do you agree with what I said, at least, or do you think I'm crazy?
No, I think Fate's different, and I think if it's so, I have to feign I don't even have to feign ignorance. I just admit ignorance that it's. So my understanding is, okay, the DM wants to put in a issue. They throw in an aspect of the scene. Okay, so house. Okay, you're in a house. It is on fire. Boom. That's the aspect. And the other person can say, all right, whatever, I accept that or not, or whatever that is. And then they get a fate point. I don't know if it's necessarily, it's kind of like, I don't know if it necessarily takes them out of the narration. And I think it's in Fate, it's a little unique because it is almost a part of it, but I know that there's a little mechanical exchange going on there.
There's an economy of fate points.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't split hairs. I mean, it's Fate and it's accelerated. So I don't. that may be the case. I guess my question to Mike would be is right or wrong or their feeling or opinion. Did it turn them off from the game? You know, they say like, I don't like this game because it does this to me. Like this is my take on it. I don't like it.
Yeah. I think that is the kind of the point I probably belabored and beat around the bush and never really identified there. But when you're dropping an aspect on somebody, or you're saying, Sean, you're blinded, Brett, you're stumbling. You have, 2 left feet because of this maneuver, or you're on fire because you were in a house that was on fire. It's not a minus that, oh, well, if I miss, I miss. We're in a D20 game. You rolled a 20 and you had a -4 or whatever. I freaking can't hit the guy because he's prone. Big fucking deal. But if you say, now you're blind in one eye, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Why am I blind? Whoa, all I wanted to do was jump through the bushes. Sorry, you got the aspect of blind in one eye because a twig slapped you in the face. Again, to Sean's point, we're feigning and flat out saying ignorance around the system. But I think Sean's point's valid. Would be, Mike, I would look at the other dude and say, well, let's keep going. Okay, that's one component of it. If that derailed the entire game, they say, I don't like it because this one instance. That instance could have been the quote-unquote worst encounter of the whole event, right? We've all had a game session where there's X number of encounters or different things that occur, and one of them just doesn't go off. It's not very fun, or it doesn't pan out as we want it to. And the individual's reasoning behind it, the immersion thing almost feels like a cop-out. And again, I wasn't there, so maybe I'm oversimplifying. But if it was kind of a cop-out thing from this person, maybe what they need to do is a better explanation. Okay, what part of the immersion did it wreck for you? Well, I just don't see my character doing that. Okay, let's talk through that. How can we, given the mechanic, what would you have preferred? How could we have done it that would have helped you stay within in the immersion? You could have that big kid back and forth and maybe sort out a different answer.
Yeah.
That's my perspective offhand.
That's good. I like it. I agree.
Cool. I'm sure guys like Victor Wyatt and Chris Nizak and Phil Vecchio and others who are Fate Masters out there will be more than happy to give us even better answers for Mike Walsh. So if you got something better, if you're one of those folks or anybody else who listens to us, wants to help Mike out here, serve it up.
Serve it up. Serve it up. All right. Let's go to our sponsor. We're going to wing this, I think, this week, Brett.
We're going to wing it?
Yeah, let's wing this thing.
Okay.
So, hey, here's the deal. We are sponsored by Grayed Out Dice Bags.
Absolutely.
By Michael Allhauser. Michael Allhauser makes the dice bags, custom make. You can see him on our video on our blab. I've got one. This is kind of a pre-printed one.
Yeah, this is the one I've got here is the kind of the dungeon, the more designed one. And I've got a nice Call Cthulhu one that Kevin Thulu gave to us. We're going to have to give this one away. Kevin gave this one to us as a opportunity to do a little giveaway, so we're gonna have to hand that out to somebody. But these things are freaking awesome.
I get the blue and white mapped kind of cloth going on, so it looks like a dungeon. Yeah. So if you you got a crappy Crown Royal bag, I get it. So you put away some Crown Royal, but hey, get a real dice bag, yo. Head over to GrayedOut, GreyedOut.etsy.com. Use the promo code GamingNBS and get 10% off your order, and let Michael know that Gaming NBS sent you over there.
And I'll tell you on Michael's behalf, if you're looking to get something, for the holidays, now's a great time to get in front of him. His orders back up pretty heavy for the holidays. If you want to get something for a gamer, either yourself or somebody else before Christmas or whatever, now is the time to get a hold of Michael and bug the guy. That's
a great point, Brett. The holidays are just around the corner. Buy one for your favorite gamer. Buy one for your GM.
Totally.
Show them you appreciate him or her efforts, right?
Absolutely. If nothing else, Brett? I carry
Brett, right?
Totally.
See?
Right. Absolutely.
If you're playing in somebody's game.
Oh, right? Wait. Oh, wow. Shaw, me in the game I'm playing in with you? Is that what you're saying?
I am the GM.
That's a neat idea. I could do that.
If you don't get me one, that's cool. I totally understand, because we're different. We at this podcast, but if you don't have a podcast, and you feel obligated to get your GM, and you actually appreciate, that's probably the key thing. If you really appreciate your GM,
right here,
then grab a dice bag from Grayed Out.
Nice, awesome.
All right, let's get into the topic, shall we?
Cadillac Coffin. I'm holding out for a hero till the end of the night. Weak as I am, no chance for you. Weak as I am, too tough, too tough.
Brett, what are we talking about this week, man?
Well, we're going to go back into, let's see here. We're going to talk about Miss Angela Murray one more time. And she brought
to wonder if she should just be part of this damn podcast.
She's got great ideas, a whole lot better than what I've come up with lately. But she mentioned something about, I don't want to have to do the nobody to somebody climb. I don't want to start out at the 0 level, work my way up. I want to kind of start out as a badass right out of the fucking gate,
So this stemmed from a show a few shows ago, where I started complaining about players needing to be, starting out as superheroes. What happened to the days of,
back in my day, we used to be 0 level characters. We liked it fine.
Yes, Brad. Stepping on a nail and then dying at first level, or a wizard having like 2 hit points. And so Angela wrote it and said, you know what? I could, she feels compelled to, how did she put it last time? Not reach through the mic and choke us, because she put it in a different way.
She said it in a much nicer, friendly Angela format instead of saying, you bastard, shut up.
Right. So now we are looking at, so that's the premise.
Absolutely. It's that there's the D&D level climb, the OSR, like I'm nobody to I'm a hero. And then if you take a game, even Call of Cthulhu, the BRP system by Chaosium, and a game like Night's Black Agents, the premise is Night's Black Agent says this flat out. Ken Hite, the author, says, you're badass. You're Jason Bourne hunting vampires. You're a bad son of a bitch. And that's the point. So you get to do badass stuff in that game right out of the gate. There's no, I'm an 18-year-old recruit into the CIA, work your way up to finally killing vampires. No, boom, you're that guy. You're Jason Bourne right out when you make your character. So, Sean, apart from what you said last time, having seen this and put together a little sound montage, do you have a preference? If I were to say, hey, I'm going to run a game regardless of what the genre is, or is the genre play a big part in what your preference is? Whether it's a climb or you have a badass at the beginning. What do you?
That's a really great spot to start, Brett.
Well, thank you.
I think it does depend on the type of game you want to play or run or come together and have your players understand and have buy-in, whatever. Player buy-in, whatever.
Well, what do you like?
I think it depends on the mood that I'm in, because I'm a moody guy.
Yeah, you're a moody little girl. I know that. Or moody little boy. One of the two. I got moody little boys. I got 5 kids, so I got moody kids running around here all the time. Doesn't matter. Gender not inclusive. I got moody kids. Anyhow,
I would have to say that if I were to want to play an espionage game, do I want it to be James Bond or do I want it to be Jean Le Carré, the spy who came in from the cold?
Well, even those guys are badass in their setup, though, right? I mean, these guys aren't fresh recruits that have no background.
They're not. No, but they're not going to chop sake anybody.
No, but there's no level climb in a Jean Le Carré, right? I mean, you don't have Smiley. I mean, you may have glimpses back into his past, but it's all past. Like, oh yeah, I used to do that thing. I used to be a wet working guy. I used to do this other thing.
So you could opt to not have the super buff player character in the beginning. What are you trying to go for? So Night's Black Agent's great. You're Jason Bourne killing vampires. Super. If that's what you want to play, then there is a tone that is conveyed. And with that tone comes the, I want to play a player character that is super badass. Now, if you want to play like classic basic D&D, first edition AD&D, Traveler, GURPS, and you want to get gritty, where like if you get freaking shot, you are going to die or take some really huge potentially mortal damage. And
we get shot in Call of Cthulhu. I mean, even in Call of Cthulhu, you can start off with a librarian or a big game hunter or somebody who's got like 70+% chance to succeed. They get shot once, according to that system. They could fucking be in the hospital forever or dead.
So you start out asking the question and setting the tone, and I think that's where you start, just kind of like what Brett just asked me. So what's your preference? What do you want to do? There, that's my answer. I will not take up the rest of the time to.
It's all for me! Yay!
Well, for the next
couple of minutes,
few seconds.
Oh, thank you. So there's a cool thing.
I told you, he's a sharer.
I am. I try. So there's a cool thing with the climb that my kids, when I run with the kids, either my younger sons or some of the kids at the high school I game at periodically in my hometown, the kids love the level climb. Part of it, I think, comes from playing Diablo, World of Warcraft, and that levelly up system, which of course comes from D&D at some point in its history. But there's a thing about this ding. Oh, I got enough experience points. Ding, I got this. I killed kobolds. Ding, now I get to kill bugbears. Ding, and now I get to kill giants. Ding, now I'm on to, whatever else. Excuse me. So there's something really cool and very Pavlovian about the leveling up process.
I don't drool when I level up.
That's why we get you the bucket. Just in case. The downside, though, is that a lot of times, in my opinion, when I talk to people who really don't like it, they don't feel the badass nature of it. And part of the badass nature of it, and I haven't spoken to Angela on this, so I don't know if this is where she's coming from. But when you feel like I'm fighting giant rats and kobolds again, really, I'm first level D&D guy, or I'm the pathetic low level GURP superhero. I can't fight. The Atom Smasher, I have to fight the guy who throws rocks at me instead because I'm not ready to take on the big bads. I can see that it definitely is being a downside where even if you have kids that you're playing with that have grown up on video games where they play Diablo or World of Warcraft, wherever it is, you're doing these kind of piddly little things, little quests, little monsters to fight so you can go do something really interesting. So I can see where that would lead to the badass beginning where you'd want to be able to say, look, right out of the gate, I'm equivalent to, 10th level fighter guy, or I am the kick-ass ninja spy dude. So I can go fight Dr. No. I can go, duke it out with Jaws on a freaking moon base, whatever the case is. I can do this cool James Bondian stuff, or I could go fight a vampire because I'm fucking Jason Bourne. So that's pretty cool. However, I think if you do it right with a climb, you can be pretty fucking badass at level 1 if you set this up. So, Sean, you're giving me the you agree with me face. I don't get that often. So, what do you think?
The agree with you face. So I think it's perception, kind of, a little bit, maybe. Because I think, if you climb the levels, again, we've mentioned Dungeon Crawl Classics. They have the funnel. You start out 0 level, baker, farmer.
And that game tells you right out of the gate you're going to die.
Candlestick maker.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, the one that comes out of that, you have a certain attachment to it. Now, it doesn't have to be crazy attachment, but you have some type of this guy's my number one dude or dudette because they survived the purge, man. I started out with 7 player characters and I got 2 that survived that went on to level 1, and then they go on to level 2, and they go on to level 3. And every time in a high, because Dungeon Crawl Classics has a high lethality rate, high mortality rate. And so you get those play. That's why going back. So I have to say in the episode that we were talking about this, I think when you get a player character that's 5th level, at least when I was growing up and it got to 5th level, because you'd have so many die along the way. Because even if you started and you're like, okay, I start out with 4 characters, which I think was the norm for us, 3 or 4, you'd always pick who would kind of survive, right? You'd put these people up in the front of the party, these in the back. You would protect this person, not protect that one. And then as they progressed, the guys would fall off. The player characters would fall off. They'd die. So when I got to like 4th level or 5th level, they had some chops because they've gone through a lot of that crap. And I wanted them to keep on surviving. And they had history, because even at each level, I think we'd even create more plebes to take the brunt of it.
True.
So my take is that while you can start out as hero, if that's your thing, and that's cool, but at the same time, I think there is an underlying sense of achievement is what I think is the key for me. What I'm outlining here is a sense of achievement when you get that 1 or 2 that make 6th or 7th level. Now that's kind of old school system-ish. I mean, now
no, I can totally buy that though. I mean, in my recent Avalon game, I shouldn't say recent, was one of ones I ran a couple years ago, but my buddy Lenny and Beta were running Newton Beecher, the pit fighter dude and the torturer. And when those guys started at 0 level and their characters become great friends, they live through all this crazy shit, they survive, they go on, they leave the city, they have all these crazy adventures, and finally Beecher dies. It's like this crazy, oh my God, death of Beecher thing. That was this big event within their overall, again, story being an artifact of the game they played, this big event that occurred. So I get that, because that bond of friendship, could it have been forged without having gone that distance? Now, I think an answer to that is if you take something like an Apocalypse game, Dungeon World, and say there's bonds, and you have a badass guy who starts off, and you ask the player across from you, Sean, you were playing, you and Angela are playing. Angela, we're at the, how are you and Sean connected? Well, we did this job together. Elaborate, Sean. What was the job like? So you talk. You can build some of that stuff with mechanics of certain game systems. So you can build some of that art. Excuse me. It's an artificial shared experience, right? Because you didn't do it in game, insofar as we both weren't there rolling dice, sweating it out, and oh my God, we beat the system and we cracked through the security and we finally got in, grabbed the data and got out before we totally got pwned. This is great, but you can kind of retrofit it through some of those bonding mechanics and other things that game systems have. Like, hey, look, you have background points. How do you want to spend them? Angela knows Kevin, and Kevin knows Chris, and Chris knows Phil, and Phil knows Sean. So that's why you guys are a team. And I think if you have a game system with those type of mechanics, that helps to fill in that need, Sean, for a guy like you or I, who says, I really like that bonding thing. If we could have just gone from first level up, if there's a mechanic that you can layer in there that says, well, you can build that stuff either as you go or at the beginning of character creation. Would that help fill that need, Sean, for you, or no?
I don't know. You're talking about more of the relationships, right?
Yeah, because that's really what you're looking at, right? To have a character at 5th level, looking at the guy across the table from you also has a character at 5th level. Mungo the Magnificent and, Durin the Dwarf, the reason they're best buds because they fucking survived to 5th level, man, together.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a shared table experience that occurs between player character and player character.
So, yeah, I can see that happening, but I really don't care what happens with the members of my party.
I could give a shit. I'm here for me, says Sean.
Get out of
social experience, my ass. All right, nice.
No, I think it comes with the
Sean hates people. He's one of the only recruiters I know that actively hates people. It's terrible. Keep going.
Something like that. So yeah, I've got a future ahead of me. So I do think that the history part is nice. I don't know if it's something that I would I don't know if that's the driving force. Because if they're along for the ride and they happen to survive just as long, super, not a big deal, I guess. Okay. We could be the Drizzt and Wolfgar or whatever.
Maybe I'm getting to a compromise scenario, right? Where if I get, Angela says, look, I want to play a D&D type game with you guys. You know, it's both of you.
I love how we're doing her topic, and she has no say in anything.
Well, hey,
It's
why
all-
not?
It's all up to our own interpretation.
She'll tell us if we're crazy, right? But my concept is that if Angela says, hey, I want to play, but, you know, I really don't want to do a level climb, you know, she wants to be a badass. She doesn't have a lot of time to devote. She can play once a month with us as the most we can play. I really like to start off kind of badass. And then, and Sean says, well, I would really rather do a level climb. Say, well, how about this? How about we play Dungeon World? How about we play a game system that allows us to have some level climby aspects, but we can still start off pretty tough? Or do I mix it up so that don't even worry about that? I get where you're coming from. I'll make sure as the game master that you'll be badass, because you can still save the world at first level. You can build a story or together as a team, or you can craft a plot line and so forth that by doing X, Y, and Z, you still save the world. You still save the town, the village, or the small world, if you will,
The cheerleader
versus larger one.
Save the cheerleader.
Save the cheerleader. Yeah, you never know.
It depends on the system too. I mean, you could. I mean, GURPS, you're never going to be super badass unless you're playing at like a goofy tech level or something.
Or a 500-point character or something.
Right. A 500-point character or whatever. Right. That goes back to the original. Like, hey, what do we want to play? What do we want to do? But I mean, even with, I'm trying to think of another system. I don't know. And I think I'm sure we just interpreted. We're just going to put words in Angela's like.
No, this is a topic. We're guessing at what she may or may not mean in some of these things, and that's fine, right? I mean, if Angela doesn't like it, she'll reach through the mics and strangle us.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is I don't think that she does not want the climb. I don't think that's right. I still think she wants the climb. She just
progression and improvement is still there.
As a dweeb, she doesn't want to start out where she trips over a nail and dies. Right? She wants to do cool things starting out. So my answer to Angela specifically would be play a supers game, call it a day. No, I'm just
okay.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
A little harsh.
I'm kidding.
My answer would be is that as the game master, my goal then would be I try to make, as Sean said, I like to help people out, make them feel good. Anyway, the cool point being at the table,
part of his sharing,
part of my sharing is that if that's something that, you know, Angela, Chris, Kevin, and you are playing, say, look, we really don't want to be plebes. I'm like, well, I really want to play 5th edition, you know, and you're like, well, I don't want to play a first level character in this new Avalon world, dude. I don't want to do this. I said, don't worry. I got you set. It's going to be a city-based adventure, and there's going to be a lot of intrigue and so forth. It's not about life and death. It's more about politicking and working your way up a different ladder. And this is where I could see a game like a Blades in the Dark even coming into play here. We can start out as low level, but you don't have to always die, right? And this kind of goes to our character death episode, which was
that brings up a very good point, Brad. If you're talking adventure action, and you remove you make it a cool game, but you don't make it
it's not life and death every time you turn around.
Exactly.
The adventure isn't based on how many hit points did you have, Angela? Oh, I'm sorry, Sean. How many hit points did you have left? Clack. Too bad. Oh, hang on a second. Wait a minute. Oh, too bad for you.
Oh.
If I take that out and my D&D game or my GURPS game or my Call of Cthulhu is famous for this, right? You're really good at stuff. You're still fucking terrified if you don't want to fight the deep ones if you're smart, because they'll fucking kill you. Guns don't solve problems in that game. But it's social interaction. I'm researching. I'm looking for stuff. If you take your fantasy game, your traditional level climbing game, but change the type of adventure into something that's more investigative, it's based on skills, talking to people, doing that type of thing. Yeah, sure, throw a couple bar fights in there, fight some ghouls that pop out of the sewers in the city or something, but you don't have to have the same, I'm going to wander out in the dungeon, which is just outside of town, try to clean out the ogre infestation. Oh, look at that, my first level mage who had 4 hit points got fucking gacked in the first encounter. You don't have to have that problem. That nail isn't going to kill you because that type of encounter isn't part of the story, isn't part of, I shouldn't say story, isn't part of the plots, the concept, and the different pieces that the game master has laid out. I think that helps to bridge that one person's desire to have a shared table experience of going from level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to also wanting to be badass, to be able to accomplish some really cool stuff right out of the gate. Do you agree? Yeah?
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I still think that's kind of the action thing. Like if you're wanting to do cool stuff, what is the cool stuff? And I think the cool stuff is the fly around, acrobatics, smash them up, kick punch.
Well, I mean, you get a game. Knights Black Agent is still a gumshoe game, so it's investigative based. You're a badass. You can fucking kill plebes. But even if Savage Worlds, you start off, you're not a slouch by any means, and as a starting character, you're not terrible. No. And there's different plays. You can start, more or less heroic, which is similar to a GURPSy thing where you can start like a 100-point character or many other hundreds of points character. So you can give people, there's still cool stuff to do. So I guess part of it too comes down to the discussion we had at the beginning. What do you see as cool stuff? And this is that we've said this before, as have other podcasters. I'm looking at you, Phil and Chris. When you have that discussion about, hey, you want to do cool stuff. What's cool stuff for you? And if I were to look at Angela and she were to say, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, yeah, I can accomplish that with 5e. I can accomplish that with Osric. Or you know what? Based on everyone at the table, I want to tell this type of adventure, this type of setting. You know what? I think I'm going to change it up. We're going to play Dungeon World. I'm going to change it up. We're going to grab Fate off or Savage Worlds or something, because that'll hit all the right points for people. So I think there's definitely ways to compromise as a group. And the other thing, honestly, if someone says, look, we're going to play 5e and I can really make it and I can tweak it and I can do all this stuff for you. And, Sean looks at us and says, you know what, that may work for Angela, Chris, and Kevin, but I'm out. It's not my thing. I don't want to play. That's fine. You can bail. There's nothing. I'd hate to have somebody at the table who doesn't want to be there and is just suffering through.
Right.
Really if you really strongly don't want to deal with the level climb, raise your hand, throw the red flag, if you will, and bail if you have to.
Yeah. Call it a day, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So I think apart from the old social contract type of discussion we just said, part of it comes down to the type of setting, genre, all that good stuff. Do I want to be a James Bondy spy? Do I want to be a plebe right out of the academy? Am I going to be fighting vampires right out of the gate? Or am I going to be a superhero? Am I the low end, I haven't quite yet been bitten by the radioactive spider guy? Or am I, 50 years worth of comic books in powered? I don't know. So it kind of comes down, that stuff comes into play too. So, okay. Interesting.
So I think starting out as cook or baker is the way to go, because that's the right way to play. But hey,
everyone else is wrong.
If they want to play the wrong way,
there's no gaming police, even though there should be, says Sean. Okay.
Yeah, right. Tell me about it.
I'll tell you to close this one. To close this one out, though, what we said this before, from like the quote unquote golden age of gaming, if you will, there are enough games out there right now that, especially with Roll20 and online Google Hangouts and stuff, if you like playing a certain type of game, like, look, I want to be a badass right out of the gate, you can find people online who love that. You can find a game system that's really cool. And sometimes it's a matter of, look, we're going to intersperse that with the regular games that we play. We play a lot of D&D, say Sean and Brett, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to slot in Gumshoe. We're going to slot in Fate. We're going to slot in something else where we come in and you're a badass right out of the door. We're going to play a high level Savage Worlds game and then wrap it up, roll out, and go on to something else. So there's a lot of ways to compromise through, but I think it's really smart to let your preferences be known.
Yes.
So I don't think did I ever tell you what my preference was?
I don't know. Did you? That whole time you didn't mention your preference?
I may or may not. I wonder what I did.
What is your preference?
I don't know.
You don't know your preference?
No, I like a level climb. I really do. There's something really cool to me about first level characters. I don't know.
Never played DCC in a funnel.
No, I haven't. I haven't done that.
Oh.
But I played zero level AD&D. I've played a lot of something really cool about being a plebe and working my way up. Now, granted though, there's a time commitment involved in that, but I still
time.
I still like it.
Time. What the hell are you talking about?
No. I'm just saying if you're like, well, I want to make sure we get to 5th level because I can do really cool stuff. That campaign takes more in in Brett time takes multiple physical real life years to get through, unless it's a Monty Hall craziness. But I do have a preference to a level climb. I kind of like it. I like starting out weak and working my way up. Now, granted, I still love my Call of Cthulhu and my Gumshoe games. You're kind of badass out of the gate, but I do like a level climb. I really do. Anything else, Sean?
No, man. I'm good. Angela,
tell us where we're wrong. Where we totally butchered.
Tell us how we misinterpreted your whole intention.
And if anybody else out there has thoughts or comments on it, we've got a limited amount of time. We try to hit different bits and pieces of this stuff, and if we miss something or you've got a really good point, let us know. We'll be more than happy to.
Let us know how you want to start out as a hero, because you don't want to work your way up and be weak in the beginning and be vulnerable in the beginning.
Just address your comments to Brett, and I'll treat you all right. I'll be fine.
And tolerate a melee and all this other stuff, because you're all, soft.
Soft. That's the problem with gamers today. God damn it, they're soft. All right, let's get out of this before it gets uglier.
Getting in a die roll. 2 to 4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery we want to share with you. I have 2. Brett has 2.
Yes, I do. I have, the first one is there's a Dungeon World Encounter Cards Kickstarter out there. We've got the link. It'll be out in the show notes. It looks pretty cool. I'm in. Are you in? Are you in already?
Done. Yeah.
Already? Wow, look at that.
We're messing around.
The more I've read, I've said this to Chris and Phil and other folks, the more I've read about Dungeon World. I've yet to play it or run it, and it seems pretty damn cool. But this encounter cards thing looks pretty damn cool, and I don't think they're asking for too damn much. I think it should be kind of neat.
Well, the nice thing about it is in Dungeon World, the back of the book, there's monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then in the codexes, I think they're called, they have monsters too. They're little kind of booklets.
Okay.
And they work and they're great, but I can see the cards coming in real handy with Dungeon World, because then you could just go through the cards and pick them out and just set them aside. Because Dungeon World monsters do not have a ton of stats, right? They have a move or, three things that they have a move, and then based on the move, what happens, right? The breakdown, whatever it's called in Dungeon World. Like if you roll a 10 or above, if you roll 7 to 9,
sure,
7 to 10, 11 to 10 to 12. I don't know.
Well, the concept of monster cards, I have all of the ones that they did for AD&D back in the day. I picked those up a while back. It's a really neat idea to have cards you can flip out and just have them, and they're really available. You can do similar things through a PDF, trying to hack them and make your own stuff, but this looks pretty damn sweet. So good stuff. The second one I have is Joe Swick, one of our listeners and our utter BSer, had shared this link out to us a couple weeks ago, and I flat forgot to point it out to folks. So Joe, I apologize about that. But geekandsundry.com had 3 mistakes every game master makes and how to fix them.
What?
Yeah. So
what is this all about?
Sons of bitches. But anyway, I wanted to throw that link out there. I thought it was kind of interesting. Even one of them is the Dungeon Master PC. And I've done that where I've been a player character and a dungeon master at the same time. And it's just, if nothing else, as I've said before, sometimes it's interesting just to see what other people think is, quote, good or bad. And it gets you thinking, if nothing else. So wanted to throw that out there. Thank you, Joe, for pointing that out.
I never understood the game master player character. Never got it? Literally, I don't think I've ever heard of that until the last year. I don't know. I think
all that time when you were running as a kid, the game master was never a player character at the same time. Never had a character sheet.
Never. It was always a non-player character. Yeah. NPC. Even if you put him into the scene, it would be like an NPC. And sure, the GM would run him, but
See,
Oh,
I guess it depends on how you want to define it, right? If you have a recurring NPC that's adventuring with the party and has a say in the direction they go, type of thing. I remember DMs, quote unquote, having to do that partly because we didn't hire henchmen and hirelings and tons of NPCs as cannon fodder back in the day. But anyway, I just wanted to share that out there. I thought it was kind of cool. Sean?
Yeah. D&D 5e random character generator. Uses MS Excel, but you can use Google. It works best on MS Excel, but you can use Google Sheets. It's a very complete, from the site, a very complete character generator that creates a new character up to level 20 only by pressing F9 on your keyboard. Characters come with name, race, class, including archetype, short background and personal traits, skills, spells, appearance, equipment. The generated sheet contains lots of space to manually add anything you'd like.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Those type of little kind of tchotchke app things they're fun. I used to have one back on Windows 95. A friend of mine had what was a tavern generator. You could go through and say what type of bar it was, what type of races could be there, magic, non-magic, and set up what type of location it was. I used to go through and pick and print out like 5 seaside bars, 5 hinterland bars, or whatever it was. They would have different types of food and things that were available and random NPC names and cool plot points. So that type of shit's always cool. I like it.
Yeah, it's good. Number 2, the Tunnels and Trolls random generator. So if you're a fan of Tunnels and Trolls, they just came out with their Tunnels and Trolls Deluxe Edition, which I finally got.
Did you get it?
I got it. I haven't read over much of it because my flame died down a while ago.
When the game failed to arrive and failed to arrive and failed to arrive and failed to arrive.
After the first year.
Yeah.
But I had heard good things. There's a guy on Happy Jack's podcast that got in and it's not Jib, and it might be Tim. One of the guys over there, like, ooh, this could be my new favorite game.
Interesting.
Some of the things it does. It's D6 based.
Can anybody get a hold of it now?
I don't know if it's on the market for anybody just to buy. I know he's had it at cons where you could buy it off the shelf.
Okay.
But I don't even know if the hardback is out yet. I think if it is, it just got released. I have a softback.
Okay.
Paperback.
I'll have to hunt around at Gamehole too and find a copy. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, if you want to check a link in the show notes, this one comes up with a random dungeon generator. So you can set the average character level the dungeon should be designed for, what the group size is, blah, 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 blah. So there's some criteria you select, and then you hit submit, and then it comes up with the temperature. So my stuff's cut off because I moved my browser. Mild, cold, logical. All spells cast as fireman will cost an extra 8 wisdom. 14 types of creatures in the dungeon.
Cool.
Yeah, it's handy kind of.
Well, that's the type of thing. Like, I mean, it's like I said with the bar generators, those type of random things. It's you're a gaming geek. You're like, oh, I'm going to print off 15 of these just to have them because you never know when you need this dungeon with these plots or these concepts or ideas to help kickstart some idea in your head. So that's cool stuff.
It's really long too, and it's got it's
pretty neat.
It picked 4 levels, and it comes out and fleshes it all out. But anyways, check it out in the show notes, yo.
Cool. Are we good?
We are good.
Sounds like we are.
So thanks to Birdman and Nick56 for the reviews on iTunes. Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, boys.
Also, this show has been brought to you by Utter BSers, to include Joe Swick, Cthulhu, Jeff Rademacher, and others.
Absolutely. Cool.
If you've found like this interesting, by all means, do us a favor and just simply tell somebody else about the show.
Yeah, write in, say hi, just say you're crazy, but thanks for bringing up something. I'm glad to tell you you're stupid and wrong. We like that too. we've been told that before.
That's right. Otherwise, I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night. Clear?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Stop recording.